So much going on today. It's like drinking from a fire hose. But let me see if we can run through some of the issues and some of the things that are making the news. So, since yesterday, there have been reports emerging that the UAE is taking punitive actions against Pakistani nationals who have been working in the UAE for decades. Now, remember, the UAE would not survive without immigrant labor, and especially Pakistani labor that basically built Dubai, built Abu Dhabi, and serves not only as the working class and labor class in the service industries, but also as the professional class. So apparently, there are reports emerging, and Newslive magazine, which I believe is an online magazine out of India, is writing that at least 15,000 Pakistanis have been deported from the UAE, majority who are Shia. So the UAE is taking punitive action against Pakistanis because they're super pissed off at Pakistan's role mediating the whole conflict with Iran. And then Shia Pakistanis because they say that they are aligned with Iran. Now, UAE's prejudice against Shias has been a long-standing issue. And people have reported over the years about being persecuted for being Shia. Although Iranians have been in Dubai and have lived and worked and vacationed and traveled to Dubai, but being overtly Shia is criminal, and now it's absolutely cause for deportation and detention. Apparently, Ittihad has fired 24 Pakistanis who have worked for Ittihad Airlines for years without cause, no idea why, except that they're Pakistani or they're Shia. One professional is quoted, 25-year-old information technology professional who had moved to Dubai over 3 years ago and worked at a local hospital, told Newslines that he was deported by authorities despite not being Shia or having a recognizably Shiite name. He identified as Sunni but said he had visited a local Imam Barga, a dedicated congregation hall used by Shia Muslims, with a friend during the first week of the Islamic month of Muharram in 2025, which he believes may have brought him to the attention of authorities. Several detainees and their families have alleged that identity tracking mechanisms have perhaps played a role in arrests, including the use of Emirates ID scans at Shiite religious sites. Shahidi said that their Shiite identity had reportedly been determined through biometric fingerprint data collected in the past, particularly during their visits to Shiite mosques and places of worship. No mystery where this surveillance technology is coming from and who is teaching the Emiratis to use this horrendous level of surveillance. Now, once again, I want to remind everybody, the UAE would collapse faster if the immigrant labor got up and left versus Iran's attacks with ballistic missiles. So there is something to think about, deportations of the labor class in the UAE, which provides such needed remittances to their families back home. Again, it is the poor working class individuals who are being crushed in this war. What else is happening? Well, Trump says last night that he will immediately take over Cuba on the way back from Iran. So the US destroyers coming back from Iran are going to stop off in Cuba, and they're going to surround Cuba until Cuba says we give up. Okay, this is what he is saying, that they will immediately take over Cuba. He also said yesterday that the US Navy is acting like pirates. This is the President of the United States calling his own Navy personnel pirates, which are prosecutable crimes. So, these are serious implications for Navy personnel should they be prosecuted for crimes. The President of the United States' own words will be used against the Navy personnel. Once again, Trump is saying the U.S. Navy are acting like pirates. Speaking of piracy, Greece has permitted the kidnapping of two individuals by the Israelis. One is Spanish-Swedish nationality of Palestinian heritage. The other is Brazilian. Israel has kidnapped them through Greek complicity, dragged them off to Israeli jails in Israel. Apparently, they're being beaten. They're being accused of being members of some Palestinian proscribed organization. The same trope. The same trope. Pedro Sanchez is spitting mad and is demanding the return of his citizen. As you can imagine, Brazil is spitting mad. But I think Greece has a lot to answer for. Speaking of Brazil, the Brazilian ambassador to London, I think, lays out the dynamics today really, really well. And he says, I quote, this is the Brazilian ambassador to London, "The highly unpopular and illegal war in Iran is fast becoming a vivid example of the chaos and instability bred by unilateralism." He said, "It is laying bare a perception that the world will not be made unipolar again. The argument that the current dark era of American unilateralism and lawless militarism may be coming to a premature end, sinking below the waters in the Strait of Hormuz, is gathering momentum as other Western countries recover their poise and place long-term bets that they can no longer cower under the U.S. security belt. The U.S. security blanket. Let me read that again. It is laying bare a perception that the world will not be made unipolar again. The argument that the current dark era of American unilateralism and lawless militarism may be coming to a premature end, sinking below the waters in the Strait of Hormuz, is gathering momentum as other Western countries recover their poise and place long-term bets that they can no longer cower under the U.S. security blanket." Unquote. Yes, all of Europe is realizing that, as now Merz is the new hated person. It was Meloni, now it's Merz, Pedro Sanchez. Starmer continues to be the poodle and continues to worry more about Israel than UK citizens and the effect this illegal war is having on UK citizens. So, what is Mr. Starmer busy doing? He's busy trying to ban pro-Palestinian marches. He is so out of touch with reality. He is also willing to sink UK democracy for what? For what purpose? It's absolutely pathetic. Yesterday, we talked about theocracies and what was happening to the Christian community in Israel. Today, Ynet, one of Israel's largest media outlets, has published a bombshell report on Christian persecution in Israel. Spitting and humiliation are daily. People are afraid to walk in Jerusalem with Christian symbols. And the byline is Oded Shalom. Now remember, Pete Hegseth cannot stop talking about Christian nationalism, the rapture, Armageddon, that our troops are fighting for Jesus, tattoos all over him with crusader symbols, right? Evangelicals are Trump's largest, biggest supporters. The ambassador from the US is an avowed evangelical, rapture-believing man, Huckabee. Yet this is happening. Let me just quickly read a few things. The smashing of a statue of Jesus in Lebanon by the IDF soldier was a direct continuation of the reality in the Old City and the West Bank. Attacks on priests and monks, the desecration of Christian symbols, and graffiti sprayed on churches take place in broad daylight and are causing chaos and echoes around the world. It has worsened under the current government, and they are not trying to stop it, says Hagop Zhernasian from the Armenian Quarter. Tour guide Paniot Benioto sums it up. We Christians have been here for 2,000 years. What is your problem? Garo Sandruni says he sees a lot of hatred on the street in front of him, a street with heavy traffic throughout the day of religious Jews on their way to the Western Wall or to yeshivas on Mount Zion and in the Jewish Quarter. Sandruni observed that what is happening from inside a small ceramic shop in the Armenian Quarter of the Old City of Jerusalem, not far from the seminary for priests that trains young Armenians from around the world to serve as clergy in their communities. Spitting at Christian clergy, at Christian symbols, spitting towards the Armenian monastery not far from here, spitting and curses, he says, in a weak and hurt voice. This reality is so routine here that it has taken over the name of the place. The permanent signs on the walls of the old houses say Armenian Patriarchate Street, but some call it the Spitting Street because of the criminal practice. Where else in the world is there a street called that because people spit on Christian religious symbols? Ahead of Easter, chains and small flags were hung on the street near the Armenian Orthodox Church, and a religious Jew passed by and tore them down. What an uproar there would have been if this had been Jewish symbols. It is a really long article and very, very detailed about what is going on. The attacks on the Christians, what happened to the French nun as she was thrown to the ground and then kicked by a Jewish man who has been identified. They say he's been arrested, but we don't know what will be the fate. Cases, quote, cases like this make us feel suffocated. This year, for the first time, I stood at the entrance to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and felt that I was choking, that I could not bear this humiliation, mine and my community's. Enough. Accept us. We Christians have lived here for 2,000 years. This is our place too. Here our Messiah was born, here he was crucified, and here he was buried. Accept our religion and our faith. What is your problem? The problem is intolerance. The problem is impunity. The problem is supremacy. The problem is apartheid. The problem is an effort to ethnically cleanse not only Muslims but now Christians. This is supported by the United States of America that is spewing Christian nationalism all over the place. This is what is going on.